This episode is powered by M-Powder. Mother Nature and modern science combine to create supplements that nourish your unique biochemistry.
I kept it quiet because people were so judgy and would make comments, and I think influencers used to get much more of a bad rep than they do these days because it's now kind of a bona fide career. Definitely back in the day, people would make mean comments and I let it get to me. And I think in the acting world as well, if you weren't just being an actor, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think people would really be like, oh, can you believe so-and-so's working as a waitress? Or like it was quite sort of mean and, you know, frowned upon to be doing other things.
Hello and welcome to Women and Wellbeing with me, Natalie Anderson. In today's episode, we are talking embracing the career pivot and the realities of that influencer life with actor and content creator Emily Tierney. So sit back, relax, and get ready to join us in our conversation.
I remember being on a TV set for a big TV commercial a few years ago, and the client came storming over and said, "Get her out of that green dress, she looks fat in it." And I just remember sitting there and being like, I am literally like less important than the product we're here advertising. I felt like literally a piece of meat. It was horrible. And it's so nice now to have sort of reached a point in my life where I can have a little bit more control over what I say yes to.
Hello all, I hope you're all well. Today I am thrilled to be joined by a very beautiful lady who I've known for a very long time. As a performer, she's taken on some of the most iconic roles in musical theatre, including Glinda in Wicked and Molly in Ghost. And on screen, she's appeared in Matilda, Mamma Mia and Michael Bay's Transformers. However, it's the sideline hobby that she took up during the pandemic that has led to her building a huge online audience and switching up roles to become a fully fledged content creator. Working with the likes of Aspire, Ritz-Carlton and Mercedes, she's the visual storyteller who's fast becoming the go-to talent for luxury brands wanting cinema-style content. And I am thrilled that she is bringing her signature style to our sofa today. She's the gorgeous Emily Tierney. Hi, Ems.
Oh, what a welcome. What an introduction.
Oh, it is so lovely. Oh, don't be silly. It's lovely to have you with me today because we go way back.
We go way back. I think about 15 years, isn't it?
I think it is now about 15 years. Yeah, I mean, like, obviously we were both in Wicked together many moons ago, but for you, like, you've had a massive switch recently. But if we go back to the very beginning, you trained at Mount View and, you know, musical theatre was your life. Just kind of start me off on the journey.
Yeah, I mean, I was born into a kind of all singing, all dancing, very creative family. Grew up with a lot of kind of support from parents and stuff. My brother's a musician, my sisters are both very artistic. I ended up becoming an actor and a singer. Went to drama school and then, graduated, and my first job was Wicked with you. And I was understudying you. I was honoured to be understudying you and just had, I mean, what a first job. I learned probably more in that first job than I did in 3 years at drama school, just from like looking up to leading ladies like you. And we had amazing Diane Pilkington and Kerry Ellis, Alexia Kadim. It was such an amazing job for me.
And it was really special because we were in the infancy, weren't we, really, of Wicked in the West End. We were only the third cast, I think it was. Yeah, so it'd only been running for 3 years. Yeah. So obviously, I mean, we know it's this huge phenomenon now and has been, you know, massive, especially last year on screen. But for us in them very early days, it was very special, wasn't it?
It was so special. I mean, I literally made friends for life on that job, and then went off out into the world after it and sort of started playing leading roles, and then came back to the show, I think 3 years later, and played Glinda. Met my husband doing it. He was my Fiero. And then, did a little cameo in the Wicked movie, the second one that's coming out next year.
For you, like, obviously starting out very early on in the ensemble, doing covers, and then stepping into the bubble.
Yeah.
How amazing was that?
Honestly, because I'd always wanted to play Glinda. I remember going to see the show when it first opened in London, and I was like, that's my dream part. And they always said I was too tall, so they wouldn't even let me audition to cover it or to play the role. And so I think 2 or 3 years after I left the show the first time, I went back in and they let me audition for Elphaba, the Green Witch. which I mean I could maybe sing about once a week, but definitely couldn't do 8 shows a week of that. And I just went rogue and went into the audition room and begged the panel to let me sing Glinda, and they were like, "You're too tall," but they let me. And then it's ever since then they've changed it, and now Glinda can be any height. They just put her in flat shoes and a smaller crown. I mean, I definitely stepped out of the bubble a few times and nearly took the crown and yeah. But yeah, it's such a, honestly, that part was just such a dream part for me. And then obviously I think I did it for a year, and then Sam, my husband, now joined the cast. And yeah, the rest is history.
And obviously then went on to play various roles. You know, like I said before, you were in, it's identical, the Parent Trap. That was the Parent Trap, wasn't it, as well as playing Molly in Ghost, which is such an incredible role. And then, obviously, the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And everything completely changed, and especially for anyone working in the theatre industry. I mean, what was that like at that time?
I mean, it was terrifying. Sam and I, my husband and I, both had shows lined up and literally overnight got a phone call saying they've been postponed, and it started off at sort of 3 weeks and then 3 months and then indefinitely. And then I think the theatres were shut for 2.5 years. And like TV and film studios shut down for a while. They recovered a lot sooner, but and thank God we both kind of got a couple of acting jobs on screen throughout the pandemic, which helped. But we literally overnight had absolutely no income or any hope of work. And neither of us have ever had a plan B. We've always sort of winged it as actors and been very lucky. One of the other of us has always been working. So yeah, it was really scary, and sort of how are we going to pay the mortgage? But equally as awful as it was, I wouldn't be kind of sat here today talking about my other career if it hadn't happened, because almost being faced with that horrendous, like we literally need to put food on the table, made me step out of my comfort zone and made me push myself to kind of turn my hobby, which was kind of being a content creator influencer, into an actual job. And I never in a million years imagined it would like become the job it is today, and that, you know, I'd now be kind of fitting acting jobs around it and stuff like that. But yes, it was a really scary time, but also gave me time to explore all of that.
I suppose in some capacity there's a desperation there of like, oh my God, like you say, we have to put food on the table, and I can't overthink this. Because I think within the performing world, and I do know it still exists to some extent, there's been quite a bit of snobbery around the influencer, so to speak, like massive, you know, amounts of snobbery around it, and how, oh, it's just wearing pretty clothes, or it's just this. And it's so much more than that. There is a great deal that goes into it. It is a full-time job with a huge skill set. Do you know what I mean? But I think being forced into that position of making you go, actually, I'm going to do this, and I'm good at it as well. I mean, did that kind of, like I say, like force you past any like voices in your head or anything,
Definitely.
anybody on your shoulder kind of you going, oh, well, she's doing this, you know?
100%. I mean, the reason I'd always kept it quiet as a hobby, because I'd done this for about 5 years, just loved having a little place that was mine to share the things I love, a bit like your amazing capsule. But I kept it quiet because people were so judgy and would make comments. And I think influencers used to get much more of a bad rep than they do these days, because it's now kind of a bona fide career. But yeah, definitely back in the day, people would make mean comments and I let it get to me. And I think in the acting world as well, if you weren't just being an actor, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think people would really be like, oh, can you believe so-and-so's working as a waitress? Or like it was quite sort of mean and, you know, frowned upon to be doing other things. And I think the pandemic leveled everyone and just made everybody realize, A, what a fragile career it is, and B, you need other things. Because like, I wish that I'd had this throughout my 20s, because I don't know about you, but every time you sort of finish a big acting job, you go from feeling on top of the world to then feeling like you're absolutely nobody again.
I'm a failure. What am I going to do? And the panic sets in. Literally. And it's awful.
And honestly, the last big show I did was Identical, the Parent Trap musical, nearly 2 years ago now. But I remember the day after it finished, I was like, oh, I don't have that usual familiar feeling of like I've just fallen off a cliff and there's nothing. I was actually finishing going, oh, I'm really excited. I've got time to throw myself into this again. And I think it also kind of makes you probably a better performer if you've got other things going on.
Yeah.
And definitely I audition better, I'd say now probably, than I did then, because there's not that desperation of I have to get this job or we can't eat, because I have got other things going on. But yeah, it definitely forced me to just shut out the voices. And I remember literally having a conversation with my husband in the pandemic and just saying, if anyone is mean enough to judge me for literally just trying to pay the bills and doing something that I'm genuinely passionate about and want to do to kind of help other women, and, you know, something that kind of helps me stay creative at a time where we couldn't be creative, I was like, well, that's on them, that's not on me. And it's amazing that now those are the people who are like, oh, how have you done this? Talk to me.
Make it look easy.
How do you build an how do you make money from Instagram? And it's so interesting. I think these days there's so much more acceptance for social media, and I think it still gets a bad rep, and I think it can be quite a dangerous place, but I think it can also be a really positive space. And yeah, and it's been amazing the last couple of years. It's the opportunities I've had and the places I've traveled and stuff. And I genuinely love it. And I love that it's kind of flexible. Like, you can make it work around other things. So if I do book an acting job for a couple of days, or I'm away for a week or two, I can make it work for me. I think that's why so many women kind of decided to become content creators in the pandemic, because we had time, people were on their phones. And I think so many people who were maybe unhappy in their jobs or feeling, not particularly satisfied before the pandemic, came out of it with this new career. And yeah, it's been really amazing.
It's just another avenue to tell stories, I think. And I love that about you. It's like, it's part of your bio that you're a storyteller, and that is completely what I see. Oh. When I look at the campaigns that you do, I'm like, I feel like I'm in a movie. Oh. And I mean, did you always have those skills? Like, did you have to learn anything new? Because this is what I mean about breaking down what the influencer life is. Yeah. There's a lot that goes into it. It is more than just wearing like pretty dresses and things, the way your skill set is incredible and it shows. So did you have to learn new things?
Definitely. I mean, we have kind of heavily invested in cameras and stuff like that over the years, and in learning how to use cameras and drones and things like that, because I am so passionate about the kind of storytelling aspect of my content and of creating work, especially when it's for brands. We come from a world where TV commercials were our bread and butter. Yeah. And I've been on enough kind of TV commercial sets to see how all of that works. And it's crazy how kind of all of the marketing that used to be done on TV is now being channeled into social media. And, a brand can pay somebody like me to film something, model in it, edit it, write the copy, do the color grading. We are essentially, as content creators, a one-man band, and are probably saving brands thousands and thousands of pounds in not having to, employ a whole TV crew and stuff like that. But I think that's the thing for me and it makes me laugh because my husband helps me a lot with it, and very lucky. He's totally self-taught, but a brilliant videographer and photographer, and he gets really grumpy when people are like, oh, look at you two just swanning off here and swanning, and he's like, we work really hard.
Yeah, I can believe
people
that.
Don't see the behind the scenes, do they? And I think people sort of see you going to nice glamorous events, and there is that side of it, which is amazing, and I'm so grateful for. But there's also
it's work.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's work.
Definitely.
I've been flown to some incredible places working on different jobs, and people go, oh, you got to go there. I'm like, we landed and I was straight on camera and I'm like, I'm so tired. I don't even remember what happened. And it is work. And yes, we are so lucky to be doing it in an incredible place. But I think, again, just, myth busting what it is to be a content creator. You're doing your own kind of, like you say, you're writing the copy and you're color grading and you're doing all of these incredible jobs. And that's one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to you about it, was to kind of lift the lid on what it actually is to do that job, and how it's more than just this glamorous thing. It is 100%. A full-time thing that you've invested in. You know, like you say, you've invested in equipment, and you and Sam do it together now. That being said, you have been to some incredible places. What has been some of the highlights?
Oh my gosh, I mean, so many. I've been on some incredible trips. We just went on a trip with the Ritz-Carlton yacht, which is this incredible sort of, it's not even a cruise ship, it's like a giant super yacht. And we were flown out there to shoot some content for them. And you do have moments where you pinch yourself and you're like, I can't believe I'm being flown here, and sometimes paid to go and film things for like amazing hotels. And we were flown to LA last year for a couple of days just for a hotel opening, and got some really, really exciting things coming up in the next couple of months. But it's brilliant, and it's amazing, especially being able to take Sam. I get so nervous when he books acting jobs that I'm like, no, he's not going to be able to come. But it's absolutely brilliant. And you do have those moments where you're like, this is my hobby and it's now my job, and you know, I'm being paid for it. But also it's been 10 years kind of in the making, and I think, I always say I'm literally like Kris Jenner with anyone who wants to do this. I will sit down and I'm like, you can do it. I'm giving them ideas. I'm so passionate about there being enough space for everyone. And I think as well, you know, everyone has their own kind of creative style. And I genuinely love supporting my other friends who do this. And I'm so inspired by so many of the other kind of content creators I've met doing this. And like you said, influencers, I think maybe because of the kind of reality TV culture in which it was slightly born out of, gave it a bit of a bad reputation. And obviously you do get people in every career who don't help with the reputation of the career. But generally in my experience, like so many of my friends who do this have come from other careers, have had amazing careers, you know, I don't know, I've got friends who came from banking who do this now, or friends who worked in our industry and come from it being actors, and I just think for me it's made me realize, because I used to always think that I can't do anything else. I used to always be like, I can only be an actor because that's all I've ever wanted to do. I couldn't even imagine
so much part of your identity.
And that's it. I think you've hit the nail on the head in that I definitely spent a lot of my 20s feeling like my only self-worth was wrapped up in whether I was working as an actor or whether I was on stage in something or filming something. And now it's so nice that I kind of have this other sort of outlet that's mine and that's kind of more personal to me, and I feel slightly more in control of. But yeah, it's brilliant, and it's you. I mean, you do a lot of it as well, you know.
The reason I started the Capsule really was a lot of it was, again, it was hobby based initially as a blog, and then the wellness side and the well-being side of it was my own journey and what I was recommending because it was affecting me. And, you know, and it's grown, and now there's various other things, kind of tangents off of it.
Yeah.
But it's blending the two careers together, which I love, because I think we had a conversation about this probably last year sometime, about the sense of empowerment. And as an actor, often you're just kind of a commodity and you have no ownership. Whereas I feel like when you own kind of what you do and you're responsible for it, you just feel you have more self-worth. And I think also you just have this sense of, no, you're not just a chess piece. And you know, you'd said to me before that you feel more of a sense of kind of that you've been treated better often at this side of the industry than how many times you might have been put on stage at times and being like, you might not have been well or whatever else, the well-being side of things and the mental health side of things.
Definitely.
You know, what has that taught you in terms of your self-worth?
So much of that resonates with me. I mean, we have talked about it before, haven't we? The amount of times, you know, I remember being on a TV set for a big TV commercial a few years ago, and one of the client came, you know, I was one of the actors in it, and the client came storming over and said, "Get her out of that green dress, she looks fat in it." And I just remember sitting there and I just finished playing like a big leading role in the West End, and then I booked this TV commercial, and you know, it was very well paid, never aired, won't even talk about that. But yeah, I remember sitting there and being like, I am literally like less important than the product we're here advertising. I felt like literally a piece of meat. It was horrible. And it's so nice now to have that sort of agency and that feeling that I can decide what I wear. I can, when I'm pitching to brands my ideas for how I'm going to advertise one of their products, I can be in charge of the creative. I don't have to have somebody screaming at me on set saying she looks fat in that. I think it's such a it's such a kind of out of control career. And like you said, the amount of times you've been on stage and rolled your ankle and then you get given an ice pack and pushed back on 5 minutes later and stuff like that. I mean, we're talking about the hardest bits of the industry. There's also amazing, amazing experiences and amazing people who do take care of you. But yeah, it can be very cutthroat, very harsh. And it definitely feels nice to have sort of reached a point in my life where I can have a little bit more control over what I say yes to, even with the acting side of things now. I'd got to an age where I was like, I don't really want to be, being paid very little money to go off on tour and do things like that. And I think it's really nice to be in a position now where I can be a little bit more choosy. And I wouldn't have that if I didn't have this other kind of sideline career. But also, as I said to you, I never thought I'd find something that I enjoyed as much and that gives me, is so rewarding as well. Like the messages you get from people when they're like, thank you so much for recommending that face cream. It's completely cleared up my skin. Or thank you for, inspiring me to go and buy this new dress. I've lost my sense of style. Or now I feel so much better about myself and things like that. Make me feel really happy and make me feel like I'm doing something to help people.
But I think that's the job, isn't it? Is that you having an impact on the audience, whether that's on stage, on screen, through socials. It's the same thing. You are getting back that same kind of feeling of, I've made your day better. You know, and often so when we're on stage and we're singing and carrying on or whatever, it's a lot of you go home feeling different to how you arrived. I think that's why it's an easier transition for people in our industry to move to this medium, because it essentially does come down to the very same thing of you interacting with your audience and, putting a piece of theatre together. Whether
sharing a bit of yourself.
And your videos, your content. I mean, I could imagine you at some point doing a short film and then moving into like directing. Is that an avenue that you'd look to?
Definitely. We were talking about it the other day. My husband's, we've shot quite a few campaigns for brands now where he's produced it and directed it for me, or when we've both been appearing in things on set, and he's quite enjoyed the directing aspect of it, and he's very good at it. He gets that, the way to sell things and the way to, when you're sort of trying to promote something, you want to tell a story, you want to make people feel something, whether it's you're at a hotel and you want people to watch it and they feel relaxed, they can, feel the warm air and the smell of the lavender or whatever, or you're watching somebody applying some face cream and you want the person at home watching it to go, oh, that looks really luxurious and that looks amazing, the texture's wonderful and she looks really relaxed when she's applying it. Like, we both definitely really understand that aspect of it, and it's definitely something we both like to get into. We love like the storytelling and that, like you just said, it's that kind of transporting people to somewhere else for a couple of seconds. And when people message me and say, I've watched one of your videos and it just made me so relaxed watching that, or it made me want to go there, or, that makes my day, because I feel like we've created something that kind of had an impact on somebody. And it's exactly like you said, like when you're on stage, you give people an hour and a half of escapism just from whatever's going on in their life. And it definitely is that same sort of medium.
The eternal storyteller. Oh, Emily, we have run out of time for today now. I could have literally sat on this chair and spoken to you all afternoon. So thank you so much for being with me. Honestly, it's been such a pleasure to have you and to catch up as well.
I know. Thank you for having me, and for also you're such an inspiration to so many of us, because you are the ultimate kind of multi-hyphenate. You have so many amazing things going on and juggling. And I always look at you and I'm I'm like, when does she sleep?
This is what happens when you bring your friends in. You don't know what to do with yourself.
No,
Thank you
amazing.
so much, my love. Thank you. As I said, we've run out of time for today, but it has been an absolute joy to have Emily with me. Now, if you'd like to follow Emily on her incredible travels, then you can find her on Instagram at Emily Tierney Official. For more women's health and lifestyle, you can visit us at our website, www.thecapsule.co.uk. You can also catch up with our previous podcast episodes by visiting the podcast page and subscribing to any of our podcast channels and YouTube. Please feel free to leave your rates and reviews, as I would love to hear from you as the series goes on. You can also drop us a message on our Instagram at Official Capsule if you'd like to put any questions to our future guests or leave a message about any of our current episodes. I will be back next week with another very special guest, but today all that's left for us to say is goodbye. So it's goodbye from Emily.
Goodbye. Thank you for having me.
And goodbye from me. This episode was brought to you by M-Powder. Mother Nature and modern science combine to create supplements that nourish your unique biochemistry.